Accessing peace. Existing without violence, with the ability to calmly resolve conflict. Downloading love. An overwhelming, deep, positive affection towards others. Activating liberty. Living your life as you see fit without infringing on the lives of others.
Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism, and about to be the very, very, very busy penguin, wombat, animal, thing, person. Why am I going to be very, very busy? Well, I've got to go to bed early tonight, and by early, I mean I want to be in bed by like 6:30 because I have to wake up early because in the morning I have to head to Biddeford, Maine, which is a town that you have probably never heard of because I had not heard of it until I signed up to do a half marathon there. It is the Maine Coast Half Marathon on Saturday morning. Of course, this show being recorded on Friday and uploaded on Friday, May 11th. And then, just a couple of hours after the race, I've got to go to the airport in Boston and then fly to Columbus, Ohio, where I will be in a meeting most of Sunday and about half of Monday before, again, jumping on an airplane and flying back to Boston and getting back to New Hampshire probably, hopefully, before 11 o'clock Monday night. So, yeah, very busy weekend indeed. Now, I know in years past on this particular weekend, I have done stories about the anti-war history of Mother's Day. And what I might do, I'm not sure, I might wind up pulling one of those episodes and reposting that on Monday. Maybe, maybe not. No guarantees, but I know that I will not be able to, because of my schedule, I will not be able to actually do a show on Monday of next week. So there may or may not be a Mother's Day anti-war episode going up on Monday. That will be something that if I'm able to get it edited, then I will post it. If not, then, well, I didn't get it done. So, with that said, and that sort of announcement out of the way, let's talk about something rather interesting. Let's talk about medieval peasants and how they may have actually had a better life than you have now. I know, sounds hyperbolic, right? Well, there's actually a story from Business Insider that in some ways makes it sound as though the medieval peasant may have, and I realize that, you know, there are going to be some caveats here. Certainly the medieval peasants did not have the luxuries that we have today. They did not have the rapid communication. They did not have air conditioning. They did not have grocery stores that they can necessarily just walk or drive to. Obviously, they couldn't drive because they didn't have cars. So yes, there are luxuries that exist today that did not exist for the medieval peasant. However, they did not work anywhere near as much as you do. Story, again, from Business Insider. And this is actually a couple of years old, but I just came across it. I was fascinated and figured, you know what? I've got to talk about it. Life for the medieval peasant was certainly no picnic. His life was shadowed by fear of famine, disease, and burst of warfare. Asterisk, not unlike a lot of the world today, with the possibility of warfare, especially given the prevalence of the American foreign policy for anyone that doesn't do things the American way. Continuing on, the medieval peasant's diet and personal hygiene left much to be desired. But despite his reputation as a miserable wretch, you might envy one thing: his vacation. Plowing and harvesting were backbreaking toil, but the peasant enjoyed anywhere from 8 to 26 weeks off per year. The church, mindful of how to keep a population from rebelling, enforced frequent mandatory holidays. Weddings, wakes, and births might even mean a week off of quaffing ale to celebrate, and when wandering jugglers or sporting events came to town, the peasant expected time off for entertainment. There were labor-free Sundays, and when the plowing and harvesting season were over, the peasant got time to rest as well. In fact, economist Juliet Shore found that during periods of particularly high wages, such as the 14th century in England, peasants might put in no more than 150 days of labor per year. As for the modern American worker, after a year on the job, they get 8 vacation days per year. Now, I realize that they're not exactly comparing apples to oranges here with the 150 days of labor out of a year minus 365, which is 215 days off per year with 8 vacation days. Well, you then add in days off, where the average person, I'm going to say, gets 2 days off per week. I realize that some people work 4-10, some people work, a 7 on, 7 off, some people work 6 days a week, but might not be 8 hours a day. It might be more than 8 hours a day, but let's say that the average American worker gets 2 days off per week. There are 52 weeks in a year, so that's 104 days off, plus 8 vacation days, which is 112 days off, which is still less than the 215 days off that the peasant received in the medieval times in England, particularly in the 14th century. Now let's talk about the dwindling of vacation days throughout history as we continue discussing how life may have been better as a peasant. Keyword there is may. Stay tuned. This is Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates, like Namecheap, Spendabit, and Amazon at shop.fppradio.com, helps fund FPP Radio. Or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. That's shop.fppradio.com. The Doublespeak Dictionary by Leslie Starr O'Hara satirizes the marked difference between the ideal of we the people and the reality of we the elite, while offering an insightful glimpse into the clockworks of the totalitarian mind. Ever irreverent but never irrelevant, the Doublespeak Dictionary serves as a subversive and humorous but timely reminder that the emperor has no clothes. The Doublespeak Dictionary is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry. Online at fppradio.com.
Before we jump back into the article, let me tell you about something that the medieval peasant definitely did not have. Well, because computers didn't exist at that time. And actually, just over a year ago, people did not have this particular technology. I'm talking about Zencash. Zencash is an end-to-end encrypted system with zero-knowledge technology over which communications, data, or value can be securely transmitted and stored. With nearly 12,000 secure nodes, Zencash has one of the most distributed secure node systems of any cryptocurrency. Zencash is a platform for cryptocurrency and communications built by voluntarists for voluntarists, with the ideas of voluntary interaction being written into the white paper no less than half a dozen times. And the Zencash wallet is available for Linux, Mac, Windows, and Android devices, and is available in multiple languages. Learn more at zencash.com. That's zencash.com. Jumping back into the article here from Business Insider, again talking about the surprising number of vacation days that medieval peasants received. Again, during the 14th century England, a peasant might expect to work no more than 150 days per year, compared with 8 days on average of vacation time that American workers receive, not counting the days off. But even counting those at 2 a week for 52 weeks, that's 104 plus 8 is 112 days off, which is still way less than the 215 days off that the peasant received in medieval times. It wasn't supposed to turn out this way. The article continues. John Maynard Keynes, one of the founders of modern economics, and not necessarily the good kind of economics. Keynes was one of the people that came up with the concept of stimulating the economy through breaking windows. Now, he didn't actually say we should break windows, but Frederick Bastiat refutes the broken window fallacy, where Bastiat says, all right, yeah, sure, the cobbler who has his window broken, sure, he has to hire a glazier to replace the window, and then there's probably somebody else that winds up getting a job to actually frame the window and install the window. So certainly it helps the glazier and it helps the window framer. But what about the things that the cobbler would have spent money on had he not needed to replace the window? And after all of the transactions are done, the cobbler is no more ahead than before the window was broken. Whereas if the cobbler wound up doing things that he wanted to do, he would wind up being ahead in some other way. He would be more fulfilled. Maybe he would expand the business. Maybe he would hire a new worker. Maybe he would take a trip, or any other number of things that would equally have stimulated the economy. But again, getting back into the article, John Maynard Keynes, one of the founders of modern economics, made a famous prediction that by the year 2030, which is only about 12 years away, advanced societies would be wealthy enough that leisure time rather than work would characterize national lifestyles. So far, that forecast is not looking so good. Now, I will say that there are certain segments of the population where something akin to leisure time is certainly the norm. And no, I'm not talking about people on welfare here. I'm talking about various entrepreneurs that wind up receiving that thing that's called mailbox money. And if you've never heard of mailbox money, there are several other names for it, but it's that passive income is another name for it, to where it's things to where you just wind up getting paid because you have either various investments or you've got different businesses that basically run themselves, if you will. And then that does allow you time to focus on running marathons, running half marathons, training for such, going to the gym, and doing other things that aren't necessarily work. Continuing on, Business Insider asks, what happened? Some cite the victory of the modern 8-hour workday, a 40-hour work week, over the punishing 70 and 80 hours of labor in the 19th century, as proof that we're moving in the right direction. But Americans have long since kissed the 40-hour work week goodbye, and Shore's examination of work patterns reveals that the 19th century was an aberration in the history of human labor. When workers fought for the 8-hour workday, they weren't trying to get something radical and new. but rather to restore what their ancestors had enjoyed before what is referred to here as industrial capitalist and the electric light bulb came to the scene. Now, I would say that the electric light bulb, the artificial source of light, is probably one of the things that has contributed most to the longer hours that people work. And then certainly there is, to some extent, something that could be construed as exploitation of labor. But that's largely because of governments, not the markets. And some people might say, well, the market decides blah, 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 blah. Everybody wants to make the shareholders happy. Sure, but again, corporations as they exist today would not exist absent governments. That's not to say that there couldn't be some sort of company that had multiple locations in a free market, but you would not have these big giant corporations absent government protections, because governments wind up giving these protections from liability to various companies. And then you've got, let's just say Walmart, where there are tens of thousands of shareholders, the vast majority of whom don't actually participate in any kind of decision making. You wouldn't have that large of a company in a truly free market where everybody had to be involved in making decisions. Stay tuned. There's more here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com.
Are you sick of government lackeys who say you didn't build that? Are you tired of elitists who think you need a government permission slip for everything? Everything you do is an A to B conversation, and the government should see their way out of it. Create true free markets by adopting the BIPCOT No Government License. The BIPCOT No Gov license allows use or modification of any product, service, or software except by governments or government agents. Go to BIPCOT.org. That's Bravo, India, Papa, Charlie, Oscar, Tango.org.
Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system. Bitcoin Not Bombs is fully committed to being the hub of the nonprofit sector of the Bitcoin economy, maximizing the potential cross-promotion of all our clients and commercial partners. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com.
This is Roger Paxton from Pax Libertas Productions and the Lava Flow Podcast, and you're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
Hey, welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. I'll jump back into the article in just a second, but first, I want to make sure that I tell you about a wonderful company that has been in business since 1977, helping people buy and sell precious metals like gold and silver. And yeah, they also deal with platinum and palladium, talking about Roberts & Roberts Brokerage. Now, the guy that runs Roberts & Roberts Brokerage, he's a Liberty guy. He's a smart guy, and he's a crypto guy. That means that he's crypto preferred. He doesn't want to feed the banks, the banks that only exist because of various government protections that they wind up receiving. And yeah, in a free market, this whole thing of fractional reserve money, you wouldn't see that because that's fraud, and fraud would not be tolerated in a truly free market. But there's no fraud here with Roberts & Roberts Brokerage selling you gold, silver, platinum, and palladium and taking other things of value, i.e. cryptocurrency, in exchange. And to prove that they are crypto preferred, they have removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in digital currency. So pick up a phone and give Roberts & Roberts Brokerage a call for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760. That's 800-874-9760. or visit online at rrbi.co. Now, jumping back into the article here, again, talking about the devolution from having a vast number of vacation days in the 14th century to only having 8 now in modern America. Again, there's a claim that the advent of the 8-hour workday and the 40-hour work week in the late 19th, early 20th century meant we were moving in the right direction. But again, Americans have long kissed that 40-hour work week goodbye. Continuing on, go back 200, 300, or 400 years, and you find that most people did not work very long hours at all. In addition to relaxing during long holidays, the medieval peasant took his sweet time eating his meals, and the day often included time for an afternoon snooze. Shore noted, the tempo of life was slow, even leisurely. The pace of work relaxed. Our ancestors may not have been rich, but they had an abundance of leisure. Fast forward to the 21st century, and the U.S. is the only advanced country with no national vacation policy whatsoever. Pause. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because government should not be interfering in private agreements. Now, that's not to say that I don't think that businesses should wind up giving people some vacation time. But again, based on the current structures where corporations largely exist only because of government mandates, we don't have a free market at all. As much as some people want to say that we live in a capitalist society, well, okay, maybe so, but capitalism does not equal free market. The word capitalism was originally defined as a regulated economy in which the means of production are privately held. A free market, no, free market does not say regulated economy. It says a free market, where you don't have these government dictates. Continuing on, many American workers must keep on working through public holidays, and vacation days often go unused. Even when we finally carve out a holiday, many of us answer emails and check in, whether we're camping with the kids in the woods or trying to kick back on the beach. And I think the reason a lot of Americans do this, and the article has what they see as a possible reason as well, but I think it's largely because we're told you're not irreplaceable. You can be replaced at the drop of a hat. Well, how do you make sure that you can't be replaced? Yeah, you make sure that you are always available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I can answer your emails. I can do whatever you want, whenever you want. So some people would see that as exploitation of labor, but at the same time, if it wasn't considered to be, this is what you're expected to do, then I think people wouldn't necessarily make themselves available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Continuing on, Business Insider says some blame the American worker for not taking what is her due. But in a period of consistently high unemployment, job insecurity, and weak labor unions, employees may feel no choice but to accept the conditions set by the culture and the individual employer. In a world of at-will employment, where the work contract can be terminated at any time, it's not easy to raise objections. It's true that the New Deal brought back some of the conditions that farm workers and artisans from the Middle Ages took for granted, but since the 1980s, things have gone steadily downhill. With secure long-term employment slipping away, people jump from job to job, so seniority no longer offers the benefits of additional days off. The rising trend of hourly and part-time work, stoked by the Great Recession, means that for many the idea of guaranteed vacation is just a dim memory. Now, what are the consequences of constantly working? Well, they get into it. So will we in the closing moments here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
This November, I'll be running the world's biggest and most popular marathon, the New York City Marathon, as a member of Team Innocence Project. The Innocence Project was the first legal organization to systematically apply DNA testing to cases of wrongful convictions as a powerful tool to reveal innocence. Tony Wright is a perfect example of the power of DNA. The Innocence Project litigated for almost 6 years to get the court's permission for DNA testing. Tony had been incarcerated for nearly 25 years in Pennsylvania and narrowly escaped the death penalty. Tony's case, sadly, is not unique. Empowered with the unequivocal proof of innocence provided by DNA technology, the Innocence Project has litigated hundreds of wrongful conviction cases, leading to the exoneration and freedom for more than 180 people through DNA testing. Overall, there have been 356 DNA exonerees in the United States who were wrongfully imprisoned for more than 4,875 years in total. You can help support the Innocence Project and help me secure my race entry in the New York City Marathon by going to run.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. Now, you might be asking yourself, Darryl, it's Friday. Why aren't you answering questions? Well, I normally would, but this week I did not get any. So if you have questions that you want me to answer next Friday, you can send those over using the anonymous, if you want it to be anonymous, contact form on the website, ama.fppradio.com. That's AMA, as in ask me anything.fppradio.com. So talking about the life of the medieval peasant and how in some regards, one in particular, the medieval peasant had a better life than you or I. That's because the medieval peasant only worked about 150 days a year. Subtract that from the 365 that are in the year, and that turns into about 215 days of no work. So why is it in modern day America we feel that we have to always be working, and what are the consequences? Ironically, the article here from Business Insider says the cult of endless toil doesn't really help the bottom line. Study after study shows that overworking reduces productivity. On the other hand, performance increases after a vacation, and workers come back with restored energy and focus. The longer the vacation, the more relaxed and energized people feel upon returning to the office. Economic crises give austerity-minded politicians excuses to talk of decreasing time off, increasing the retirement age, and cutting into social insurance programs and safety nets that were supposed to allow us a fate better than working until we drop. And then they get into some of the laws in other countries. And again, I'm not necessarily in agreement with the conclusions here of this article from Business Insider that government should wind up forcing companies to provide certain amounts of days off. But at the same time, I think that more and more businesses should look at these things and see, wait a second, people perform better after having some vacation. All right, let's wind up giving some vacation days. People perform better when they work 4 days a week instead of 5. Let's tweak the schedules a little bit. Let's not wind up overworking our employees and creating harsh working conditions. And I wonder why nobody stays here longer than 6 months. Yeah, I've worked at jobs to where after like 2 years, I was the most senior employee. It's ridiculous. And yeah, there are some jobs where the work conditions are just horrible because the bosses don't know how to actually wind up being good bosses. That's it for today. Again, won't be here on Monday, but I will be back next Friday answering your questions. ama.fppradio.com.
The podcasts of FPP Radio are licensed under Copy Heart. We believe that copying is a form of flattery and do not abide by the copyright laws. Those laws serve to restrict the flow of ideas which no one can really own. Copying is an act of love. Love is not subject to law. If you enjoy the show, consider joining the Fans program and get perks like ad-free versions of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio and FPP Radio News, and also get a copy of the monthly newspaper FPP News. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com.